Thanks for being here today. Again, we're making a little joke about that perhaps we should ask where you're all going to go tomorrow, but probably not here. We're really hoping not here. Thank you for being here. I am Jean Peters-Baker, your prosecutor. We have an announcement today. I have a great team with me, so it's really great to be surrounded with a very able team to announce charges today. Okay, so this stems from, our charges today stem from a really awful call that everyone here received just after 4:30 a.m. on Sunday morning. That was the awful news of a mass shooting in our city. I have an assistant prosecutor with me here, Caitlin, who went to that scene, has working with the crew that's behind me, but many others who are not standing here with us with the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department from those early hours. And I want to thank them, all of them. I want to thank the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department for the solid work put into this case, to Caitlin for continuing to work with them until we could bring you these charges today. Now, moments ago, a Jackson County judge signed our complaint charging Keivon, I'm maybe not exactly sure if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, with 3 counts of murder. Count 1 is murder in the second degree for killing Camden Brown. That is charged as a conventional murder. Count 2 is armed criminal action. Count 3 is murder in the second degree for killing Nico Manning. That is also charged as a conventional murder. And count 4 is an armed criminal action. Count 5 is murder in the second degree for killing Chastity Strong. That charge is a felony murder. You'll see that in our charging documents will look a little bit different than the other 2 murder charges. However, this defendant is being charged with all of the events of that evening, whether or not he fired the fatal shot or not. He is the individual that set off this chain event that led to shooting by others. So under Missouri law, he too is to be held accountable for all the results of that evening. And certainly he is responsible for the death of this young woman also losing her life. All right, count 6 is also a armed criminal action charge. Separately, that was filed earlier in time. There's an assault charge that's associated with this case as well. That is a separate charge and will remain in place as well. The judge in this case issued a no bond, so the defendant is not, there is no amount of cash that he can post at this time to make bond. So he will remain in custody of the Jackson County Jail. A couple of other matters that I just want to bring to your attention in this case. It was about 2 days before the shooting itself. About 2 days before the shooting, this defendant did post bond in a separate matter. As you know, individuals in the state of Missouri, we still utilize a cash bond system, and he was able to put up the amount of cash required under his bond conditions after doing about 9 days in jail on those other charges. Those charges involved a resisting arrest and a drug possession charge. Both of those are felonies. And those 2 felonies were brought to us through the Independence, Missouri Police Department. And so I will say it might be tempting. It might be tempting to want to attack the judge in some way for that bond, allowing a bond to be made, perhaps me. But I want to, it is my duty to defend that judge. It's my duty to defend the rule of law. The rule of law also governs bonds. It also governs bonds. And this judge followed the rule of law, which is what you want judges to do, no matter if that rule of law goes against us or with us. So I want to make sure I defend her in this matter because she deserves it. She deserves it. And I am grateful to have judges that hold me accountable for the rule of law, and it is our collective job to defend them. I've already said, but I want to say it again, that I'm really, really grateful for the expertise of the individuals that surround this podium today. We would not be here with charges, able to bring you charges today without the work of the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department. And there are going to be some other questions that I thought there are others in the ranks here that will do a better job of answering regarding the club itself and perhaps where the city might be going with that. But I want to turn the podium over to my colleagues here in the police department. So go ahead, step up, sir.
Hi, my name's Sergeant Tim Fitzgerald of the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, the Homicide Unit. Just wanted to thank my detectives that responded to the scene, including Detective Thomas here, who is the lead detective. They worked countless hours that day, along with our other partners within some other divisions on this case, and we were able to apprehend a suspect within 12 hours of the initial incident. And then proceeding in the days prior or the days after, we were able to get to a point where we could present a case to the prosecutor's office and get these charges today. So I want to thank those detectives and all the officers that helped. I also want to say that we would not be here today if it wasn't for the help of a witness and witnesses at the scene that came forward and provided us with information. That information was vital in figuring out who was the suspects in this case. And like I said, we would not be here today if it was not for them. However, there's additional people that we know were there and witnessed this. So we hope that they come forward and provide us with additional information.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, and I too, maybe we'll do it this way. Thank you for your work on this case, Detective Thompson. I appreciate you very much. We also have, our chief is here today. I'm sorry I didn't acknowledge you out of the gate here. I'm always eager when I face a throng of cameras to kind of get right down to business. So we're here to take a few questions, and go ahead.
Do you have any explanation as to why this happened? I think that's the big question in the community.
Yeah, motive is always a difficult thing for us. Luckily, the law does not require that I prove motive, and oftentimes we cannot come up with an adequate answer, even when we know there's some kind of, it appears to us, a small dispute that kind of set this off, and maybe it was issues perhaps over a girlfriend.
Correct.
Did I get that correct? So I don't know if you want to answer that more fully, but that's kind of what we understand happened. It's just not a suitable answer. However, that is not a suitable motive for such an event like this. I think we would all agree to that.
Are there any other persons of interest or possible suspects that you think could be believed to be part of the shooting?
This case remains open and under investigation. I probably should have said that out of the gate, that we are still looking at others. And I don't know whether or not where those, that investigation will go. But for us, investigations remain open until the last toll happens for us. So this will remain under an active investigation for the months ahead.
So why is the third murder charge different from the other two?
The defendant under Missouri law, this defendant is responsible for the chain of events that he let off. So, just like the bank robbery, you drive the car, the getaway car, someone inside the bank dies. As the getaway driver, you were also responsible for the person who died inside the bank. That's the issue here. No matter where that fatal shot came for Miss Strong, he is responsible for the shot that killed her.
Can you explain the club? From what we've seen, this was an auto repair shop that was licensed as. Can you explain how it is designated as a club and what it is conducted?
I'm going to pass that one to the chief.
It's actually not designated as a club. At times we do have establishments that will open their businesses, not in a legal form, not with the correct industry standards and licenses that you would need to operate such a business. We were aware of this after hours location, I guess I would say, because I don't want to designate it as a club, but it was sporadic when people were there and not there. We have taken measures to address it, and I do know that that will continue as we move forward past this incident.
Did it have a name that was operating under?
I don't know. I don't know what the name would have been. can find that out.
Excuse me, you said it was 2 days before the shooting, this suspect posted bond on a separate matter. How much was that bond?
I think it was $1,000 cash that he ended up getting to post in order to be released.
Chief Graves, earlier I was over at the police board of commissioners and you spoke about violence. I was wondering if you could repeat some of that because a lot of people are watching this now and your thoughts on the shooting in general.
Yes, my thoughts on the shooting in general is senseless gun violence, and what I said earlier at the Board of Police Commissioners meeting is that we have an obviously a complex gun problem here in Kansas City, and I know that Kansas City is not unique in that across our country, but it seems here in Kansas City, and that's what I can speak about, is that conflict here in Kansas City is oftentimes handled through gun violence. People are too quick to pick up a gun out of anger, out of a way to just resolve some type of an immediate conflict. And some of the things that I said over at the board meeting was a call to action to the community. Last month in May, even with Prosecutor Jean Peters Baker and many of our community partners, we stood up and we told the community, we told Kansas City that we are taking a citywide approach to violent crime. That means everyone gets involved in solving crime. It's not just a police issue. It's not just a community issue. Everyone needs to come together to really make a lasting change in making Kansas City safer. What happened there at 57th and Prospect is indicative of the gun violence that we are seeing in Kansas City, not to that magnitude, but each one of the 97 homicide victims that we have right now have a family who loves them. They are people, each one of them individually. I had the unfortunate opportunity to talk to a victim's mother at the scene, who it was tragic. And people need to see that this doesn't happen into some other neighborhood and it doesn't affect me. If you live and work in Kansas City, every life taken by violent crime affects you. And with the mother that I met and talked to, I saw myself in her. She's a wife. She's a mother. She wanted to help her adult child. I'm just telling you, this touches each and every one of us, and it's going to take every one of us to get together, work together. This is how this was solved so quickly. It was a work between the community and the KCPD and the Jackson County Prosecutor's Office. We all have to come together. We all have to work together to make Kansas City safer.
Do we know the condition of the other 6 people who were injured?
Non-life-threatening?
Non-life-threatening.
Non-life-threatening condition. Mm-hmm.
And to clarify, the man who was charged yesterday, was he also one of those 6 victims?
No, he is not listed as one of the 6.
Do you mind reading the charges one more time?
Sure, I'm happy to. Count 1 is murder in the 2nd degree. That is for the killing of Camden Brown. Of course, there's a resulting armed criminal action charge attached with that. Count 3 is murder in the 2nd degree, and that is for the death of Nico Manning, and an armed criminal action charge attached with that. And murder in the 2nd degree, that's the felony murder for the killing of Chastity Strong. We call that a felony murder rather than a conventional murder, but it has the same range of punishment. And then, of course, there's an armed criminal action attached with that. There's a separate case where there's an assault in the 1st degree filed as well, and that has been previously released to each of you.
Do you mind spelling his name first?
The defendant's name?
Okay.
Sure, it's Keivon, middle initial M, last name Greene, Greene. And my apologies on pronouncement, I'm not sure I got that correct. All right, any other questions we could take?
One last question on the after hours club. How big of an issue is this in Kansas City generally, and what more can be done in terms of regulations or monitoring to prevent something like this?
I wouldn't say it was uncommon in Kansas City, but I wouldn't say it's something that is so prevalent. But we have had issues, when you have an unregulated business operating after hours and with large amounts of people, even sometimes outside of what by code that you should have inside of a building. We are aware of those, and sometimes there are disturbances that spill out. But I can tell you that we have had attention on this business, and the attention will continue until we get where we need to be, to where we can ensure that something like this doesn't happen again. And that will be also apply to other businesses that operate in such a way.
I know this is more a question for the city, but do you know if the city's planning to take any action?
Yes. I'm working, the mayor and I were both on scene the morning at 57th and Prospect, and we discussed this. We discussed this with some of the officers that were involved in addressing some of the calls for service that happened at that location, and some of that was shared, and there are going to be some actions thereafter.
What's the relationship with the defendant and this business? Is he just someone who's attending?
He was someone who was just there.
Okay. So, what are things that can be done, I guess, to the property owner or the business owner?
That's going to be something for our city officials, probably codes, maybe regulated industries. From what I understand, there is a business license for the mechanic shop, so all of that will be reviewed and looked into.
Do we know how many people were at this function?
I don't have an exact number. I can tell you it was a very chaotic scene when our officers arrived. As you can imagine, with that many victims, people leaving, fleeing, and just the tragic scene that they walked onto. Yeah.
Chief, you and your deputy chief also mentioned at the board meeting that you apologized because there was a body that had been laid
Yes.
out apparently at this chaotic scene for several hours. Have you received a lot of comments from the community on that? or-
Not necessarily. That was something that we recognized at the scene. We talked about it. We communicated that with crime scene, and this is to no fault of their own. They have one time to get the full picture and the collection of the evidence, and because of the magnitude of this case, we had a very large crime scene that we were working with, and the scans and the technology that we used to capture everything with measurements at that scene is why it took longer than we feel like it should have, with a victim still in the street. That is not something that I'm, like I said, not faulting our crime scene, but something that me as the leader of this organization, just to look at what the balance is of making sure that we capture the scene, all the evidence involved, all the measurements and whatnot, with also the sensitivity of the fact that we have a person, we have someone's family member in the street, and for this incident for a couple hours. So it's just that balance.
The shop owner claims that this was an invite-only party, and majority of the things were on the opposite side in a parking lot. Have you all been able to confirm if this is something that just spilled into the area, or if Mr. Greene was actually attending this birthday party?
I don't have all of those details right now. Some of that's working out, but it really doesn't matter. That place drew the crowds. The crowds were there, and this is what happened as a result of that. Anybody got anything else?
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
And I'll
guys.
send out the charging documents here just for the, yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Is it right? Key. That's what I have done.